And we're back. Hi, honey.
In the saddle. Am I singing again?
No, we've established like one rule. No singing on the podcast. You know, why are we both like you would think statistically speaking, one of us should be able to sing. And yet we are both awful.
Neither of us can sing and neither of us can juggle.
Well, I mean, right. However, I just feel like, again, statistically, like one of us should be able to carry a tune. But hi, babe.
But I don't think we're musically inclined.
That's what I'm saying.
Family. But I think it's the entire family. I don't think it's actually.
The only one that may have a chance at singing is Ari.
Ava's probably.
Except, well, I told you I've had visions of Ava being up on stage on the worship team. So, I mean, you just never know.
He can play the piano. He taught himself how to play the piano.
Maybe he can play hot cross buns. That really doesn't. Well, if that's the case, I can play hot cross buns on a flute phone.
I want to say some funny jokes right now.
No funny jokes. No funny jokes. Welcome back, babe.
Hello.
You're like a regular fixture here this week.
I don't know about that.
This is our third recording. Three. Should we tell them like the real? This is our third recording together today.
Yeah.
We just changed outfits so it doesn't look like it.
Changed
so if I'm looking at us on the YouTube video right now, are the podcast mics up way too high?
I think
I thought you said you like
to see it.
Well, I do, but Easton's like, you don't want it so high that it's like if I just sit back like this, that's better. Where's the top of your podcast?
I have a black shirt on, so mine's right.
Oh yeah, you can't really
see.
Okay, black on black on black on black. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so see.
So we did a podcast earlier today.
Yep.
Giving people a life update.
Yeah.
That was fun. We went through all 4 kids one by one. Talked about us.
And went through that, and then talked about us a little bit.
Yeah. We did
a kid update.
We did a podcast episode on, I did one yesterday that either has come out yet or will be shortly on entrepreneurs and dysregulated nervous systems.
Yeah.
And then you did part 2 with me, which was like PG rated.
I thought we did the French part 2.
Part 2?
Yeah.
Est-ce que vous parlez français, monsieur?
No.
My favorite is when I mix my French and my Spanish.
Which is both terrible.
I know. Hey, I did take 2 years of French, so basically half French.
And I took Spanish in 8th grade, so therefore I can say every cuss word out there.
Yeah, I can still say a couple of French cuss words.
Really?
Yeah, like
just
one. Well, no, probably not, but
I can say Italian curse words.
I'll get
some Hispanic curse words.
Okay.
I don't know
we're above this.
Okay.
All right. Back to the podcast topic at hand.
Oh, we got topics?
We have a topic.
You didn't tell me the topics.
I told you the topic because I told you nearly every day. One of our followers on social media, one of my followers, who they're so sweet, they're so kind. They're always curious how you are feeling, how you are doing after your last surgery. So we're going to talk about that. Also, I get an equal amount of people who ask me weekly, Jen, are you still having trouble with your ears ringing? And this is something that started like 3 years ago. So I'm going to tell you guys all about that in just a second. But those are the 2 things I want to talk about today. With hopefully some help for other people. I mean, I'm just not wanting us to talk just to like overshare, but especially for the ear ringing piece of it. There's probably not a lot of people out there with broken hips, but maybe for you. But I thought we could just start out.
We're hippies.
We are hippies.
No, I'm a hippie. You're not a hippie.
No, but I thought we could start out talking about you because we are getting close to Father's Day.
Why don't we talk about you first?
Because if you'll notice the notes here, sir, the notes have you. Yeah. So, okay. So it is Father's Day, just right around the corner.
Right around the corner.
And so do you want to just give people who maybe don't know what happened, just the 30-second version of when, where, what happened?
30-second overview of what happened to myself was training for a bike ride. On Father's Day morning, 6 o'clock in the morning, I was going to go meet a friend.
So this is where like his wife has to jump in because training for a bike ride, and I'm not trying to interrupt, but like the truth is, my goal training for a triathlon.
Yes.
Okay, why downplay it? I was training for a bike ride.
I was training.
You're a badass, and you were training for a triathlon.
I was training for I wanted to complete my 3rd or 4th. I don't even know what it is. The last triathlon. And they would hold it in Missouri, blah, blah, all that stuff. So anyways, I was on a training ride, 6 o'clock in the morning. I was a friend who I ride with always comes to our house and we'd ride from our house. Then we go on the bike ride. And so this morning I was going to surprise him and I was going to go to his house and meet him and then ride back the same route we usually take. So I was just trying to be a good friend, a nice person. I don't know. And so at that time, my father was in the hospital. Sorry.
You want to start over?
Nope, we're good.
Okay.
Anyways, he was passing away. And so I started on the ride and sorry, babe.
Well, let's just start over.
It's okay. It's okay.
All right.
So I started on the ride and all I could think about that morning was just going to see Dad. And they had done some repair work in the neighborhood and had left a cable going across the street. Well, Jen and I were out of town week before, and so I didn't know they had done this work. The new route, because I hadn't taken this route yet because I go meet my friend. So I saw this cable in the road and I thought I could ride over the cable, and clearly I couldn't, or I didn't.
Well, because in your logical brain, who leaves a cable just laying across a street for a week in a neighborhood? Like the main, it's not like an off-road. I mean,
no,
everybody has to drive on this street.
The main street to the neighborhood. And so when the bike tire hit the cable, it twisted my handlebars and
it catapulted you.
Catapulted me off the front of it. And I landed on my shoulder, hip, and helmet. And so to make a long story short, I busted my femoral neck of my hip, which is like the little part that, like, if your hip bone goes up, the little part that goes across in the socket. I broke that. So it'll be 3 years ago, Father's Day. Yep.
I've heard you tell this story 100 times and I don't know that I've ever heard you cry. I'm so sorry.
Well, it's close to Father's Day.
Yes.
And it's so
it's triggering.
Yep, it is triggering for sure.
You want to keep going?
Let's keep going.
All right. So that is what happened. So
that's what happened that morning, 6 o'clock that morning.
So Jason calls his wife to tell his wife that he's crashed.
Yeah. So
I am the wife.
So in quick recovery from the tears, so I gathered myself, I picked up my bike, and I
basically had to crawl.
Found my phone and kind of used my bike as a crutch because the handlebars were so crammed around it that I couldn't get the wheel straightened out, which thank goodness.
And you had no idea that your hip was broken.
I had no idea. I just knew I was hurt. I knew that I was injured. I didn't know how bad it was. I didn't know anything at that point in time. So at that point in time, I get my bike. I call my wife. 6 o'clock in the morning.
I'm such a jerk. I had my finger off, you guys.
So just so you know, yeah.
I just will never get over that. I will never forgive myself because he called me not once, not twice, 6 times in a row. And it was like 6 o'clock in the morning. And so, I was just snoozing and had turned the ringer off because I'm not good at using my phone, what the phone is for. Yeah. I only use my phone for social media and texting. And so
the dings and
so I always have it turned off and I'm just like still mortified. So then
it's fine.
You ended up calling Richard, the guy you were
So I called my partner I was riding with, and he didn't answer the phone either. So I was kind of perplexed on who to call next. I didn't know what to do. At that time, a lady had stopped when I was on the thing there, and she asked if I was all right. And I said, I don't really know for sure. And she said, well, I'm a nurse. And I said, okay. And then she said, but I'm late to work. And she left me on the side of the road with
a broken
with my bike. Couldn't get the handlebars straight.
Which is just like
I would say like first responders 101 or like a nurse's isn't like a code or something like that you take. Anyways, so that was that. Looking back, there's a lot of things that went wrong that morning. I probably should have taken an ambulance. I probably should have called 911.
Yep.
I probably should have done a lot of things.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
We had no idea.
Had no idea. So my buddy Richard actually calls back and was like, hey, what's going on? I saw you called. And I thought he'd already left and he wasn't going to get the call. So I was a little freaked out. So he was like, he has a truck. And I was like, hey, just bring the truck. I wrecked. And I just need help. So he shows up. A couple minutes later, I think he was doing like 100 miles an hour down the road. Yeah, he was cruising. So anyways, Richard came in and he came in first because I couldn't really get out of the car that good because I knew I was hurt, but I didn't know what was going on, but I knew I couldn't walk very good. And he got a chair for me and I sat in the kitchen. And then he's like, well, I need to go wake up Easton. Because
he didn't want to wake up your wife, not knowing what your wife would wear.
Yeah, what was she wearing? Not to bed. And so,
my best friend's husband.
Yeah. So at that point in time, Easton comes downstairs, and I was like,
"Oh my goodness,
just go.
So sorry.
Just go get mom. Just go get mom. I wrecked my bike.
Yeah.
So at that point in time, Mom comes downstairs, and then I can honestly say the only time I've ever really cried from pain is like what, twice, three times.
Yeah.
Like I'll cry. Don't get me wrong. I cry thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
But the only time I've ever really cried from pain is when I had my appendix
Taken out.
taken out. Actually, when the doctor pressed on my appendix, but he said if we can do this one of two ways.
Yes.
And then when I sat there and I watched my wife around the corner, and I just let it go.
Sorry, baby. So we rushed to the hospital.
Yep.
They checked you into the ER. This is when COVID was hot and heavy, because this was 2021. So like first thing they did was give you a COVID test. We had COVID 7 weeks prior. We had been to Mexico on a marriage retreat with John and Lisa Bevere and a group of people, and got tested for COVID before we could leave Mexico to come back to the United States, which I have the pictures. You can tell I'm sitting down on the outside, but I'm standing up on the inside. I was so mad as they're swabbing me because I didn't want to test, didn't need to test. But anyway, we test comes out, you're fine. We come back to the United States 3 days later on Mother's Day.
Yep.
I'm sick as heck. Then you get sick as heck. And so then it was 6 or 7 weeks later so we both had COVID, and we didn't test because no need to. We knew what we had.
Yeah,
we knew what we had been exposed to. Stella, sit down, please. Don't give me down. Sorry, I should have put the dogs up. And so, so we didn't test. So at the hospital, the first thing they do is test you. Your COVID test came up positive, to which they said, you all need to leave. He has to be put in isolation, to which I lost my ever loving mind. I mean, I literally didn't, but I don't cry when it's appropriate. And I talked about that on the podcast about talking about my nervous system. You can go listen to that. Jason always says, like, I'm dead inside. I didn't cry when you had the accident. I didn't cry when they said your hip was broken, but I started to cry out of anger when they were like, he has to go in isolation, you have to leave. And I'm like, the heck? I was so mad because he didn't have any symptoms of COVID. I mean, we don't even need to get into it, but it was awful. And my ass is still chapped about it. I'm still pissed about it.
So that was in June of 2021.
That's in June of 2021. So my birthday, I was turning 50, was at the end of July. So after they did your first surgery, which was basically your hip was broken, and the doctor that was on call that weekend, the hip doctor, he put like 3 screws that were like, no, kid you not, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see, they're like deck screws into my husband's hip to like stabilize it. And he said, with my husband's youth,
let's go.
I'm like, youth? Okay, you were 49.
I had muscles.
But this is not muscles, but it's funny because at 49, we were not thinking that we were like youngins, but he's like, if you put in if we do a hip replacement, you will more than likely outlive that, because those usually last 20 years. So he's like, he just put in 3 screws, which he thought would stabilize it enough for your hip to heal. And et cetera, et cetera. So we told him then, like, hey, we have this big vacation plan with 4 of our closest friends, and we were going to St. Thomas for my 50th birthday. So we had this incredible, like, bougie, huge house on the ocean rented, and all these things that we were going to do. And he's like, you're going to still be on crutches or a cane. But if you're feeling up to it, I think you can probably do it. You're probably, still gonna have painkillers, all the things. Well, it was awful for you. I mean, let's just be honest. It was miserable. The plane ride was miserable.
I don't remember a lot of it.
You don't remember a lot of it because you were still on a lot of painkillers. And in retrospect, like, do I wish that we had postponed it? I don't know, because what ended up happening is you went back to the doctor in September because the pain just wasn't getting any better. It was like, whether we went in July or August, I don't know if it would have made a difference, because your pain level was like not going down.
No.
So we called your hip doctor.
So I called the hip doctor and said, hey, I think something's wrong with it. So he did x-rays on it. And then everything appeared to be fine, according to the x-rays. Couldn't see anything on there. And they did a MRI or CT scan, whatever the heck that was.
I don't know the difference. I have always get those backwards.
Anyways, so they did that. And then, so I went down there and did that on like a Thursday. So Friday, I'm in the office. We go back and see him. And he's like, so did you get the news yet? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, oh yeah, your hip is still 70% broken.
It's only 80% broken. It was, it had healed like none.
It is only healed 3%. He goes, but the good thing is the bone is growing. The bone is growing. Yeah.
In 4 months.
The bone's growing, but it's growing over the screws. Oh.
over the
over
said back screws. So essentially,
so the bone's not growing together.
Yeah.
And he just said the way that the break was and where the pressure's at on your hip, it just doesn't get a lot of blood flow to it, and a lot of other reasons that are in there, and they're all medical stuff. And so, so that was in September.
That I think it was October, because your second surgery was the week of our anniversary.
Yep,
which is
our
October 18th.
anniversary is 18th, and I think it was the 20th I got the second
Something
surgery.
like that. So
Yeah.
they did your second surgery, which was a complete hip
Yeah,
replacement.
full hip replacement on that.
And you know, we thought, okay, everything's going to be hunky dory.
Everything's good.
Everything's going to be good.
Everything's good.
We thought everything wasn't good.
We were giving high fives, weren't we?
Well, we just thought, okay, that you've been in so much pain since June. It was now October, and we just thought, okay, this is going to be what fixes it. Turns out that was not what fixed it. So that was in October of 2021. And we have, I can't even begin to tell you how many different options we have exhausted between, let's just say, maybe January, February, March of 2022 and January of 2024. Because in the last 2 years, like, your pain level, sometimes it would get better, but for the majority of the time, it just, and I'll let you speak for yourself, it wouldn't. And it would start out like, you'd wake up in the morning in pain. So it would just like escalate through the day. And by the time you went to bed at night, it was like a lot of days very unbearable. Yeah.
There were a lot of days and I still tried to be active and do things, because I didn't want to be the guy that just sat around and did nothing. And when I say I tried to be active, I mean, I was still doing the Peloton. I wasn't going out on bike rides necessarily. I did a few, but not a ton. I was still doing my weights. I was still doing all of those things. Still trying to stay physically in shape.
Yeah. Mentally, you needed that for your mental capacity.
Mentally, it was taking a dramatic toll on myself, and taking really a big toll on Jen also. I
don't think so. I think I hit it very well.
Okay.
I mean,
you can hide a lot of things, but I mean, it was a lot.
Well, for the people that are listening who are either in chronic pain or you're married to someone in chronic pain, you will understand that chronic pain affects everyone in the household. It just does. It affects everybody. And so I know that it has given us a whole new compassion level for people who are living with chronic pain. And for their caregivers. I know, like, Tara Wall, who's in my mastermind. She's in my next level mastermind. Tara has lived with chronic pain the last several years from having some COVID symptoms that have never gone away. And she's the one that owns Consider the Fields. And Tara's just precious. And so her and I have had many conversations, because, like, she was the one in the chronic pain, and her husband and I were in the similar position, and just they had gone to some, meetings and read some books on just how the pain for the caregiver is almost, as much as for the person in pain, because you just feel so helpless. There's really nothing you can do. And so it just stinks. And we got to a point of really feeling desperate, because I mean, you tried massage, you tried acupuncture, you did muscle stripping, you did more PT. And what everybody just kept telling you is, your hip's fine. There's nothing, we can't find anything. We can't find anything. So you kept trying to do things like as if life was normal, right? Because everybody's telling you, hey, it should be normal.
This doesn't hurt. What are you talking about?
And yet I'm going to bed with you at night and you've got tears in your eyes. And like I said, you got emotional at the beginning of this call, but you don't normally, like, that's not normally, you're not somebody normally to get super emotional, tears in your eyes, cry over pain. It's just,
I'll cry over my son moving out, or dropping him off, or talking about this, but you're going to take it's going to take a lot of pain to make you cry.
Exactly. And so we were desperate for pain relief. And you, most of all, I think you were desperate for sleep, because here's one of the things I'd like to tell those of you that are listening. The other day I posted something on my Instagram stories, and I told them that I showed them that I was doing like this, a hip workout. You've seen me do, like, you've seen me do the hip videos. They're fun for you to watch.
I enjoy those.
We're opening up my hip cavities and whatnot. Anywho, and, but it's because, like, now that I've been married to someone who's had a traumatic hip injury, and, I'm obviously not getting any younger. I have one hip that is slightly shifted inward. And I used to think this one hip bothered me just because I did fast pitch softball for all of my high school career. And then, but when I delivered Noah Allwood, he came out like the size of a linebacker. I mean, he wasn't that huge. He was 2 weeks early. They induced me, and he was over 8 pounds. But like, he was stuck.
But he had some shoulders on him.
Oh my gosh, that kid's he about broke my pelvis. But I do have one hip that's slightly shifted in. So I don't know if that's why sometimes, like, I'll just have my hips ache a little bit, which makes like my leg length off, and then I'll go to the chiropractor and he'll fix it. But what I know now, after having been married to someone with a chronic hip injury, is that you use your hips for everything.
Everything.
Sleeping, like, so sleeping was so uncomfortable. Sitting in a chair, so uncomfortable. Driving in a car, so uncomfortable. Like, when I say this was affecting every area of our life, you know, my family is in Iowa, but like for us to drive there, and I'm not saying that, you know, that to make you feel bad.
No.
I mean, it just, you know, walking hurt, like you couldn't walk with me. I went to our house in Florida a lot without you because the plane ride to Florida was miserable for you. It would be usually not a direct flight. So we'd have a layover. So then you're on the plane twice. That hurt. We would get to the house in Florida and it's 3 flights of stairs up to the condo. That hurt. We would have 99 steps to go down to the ocean. That hurt.
That hurts.
We'd get down to the
beach
and you're walking on uneven, you know, sand. That hurts. Then Ari would want you to get in the ocean, but you're like uneven and you knew your hip was not stable.
Yeah, it wasn't stable. And mentally I didn't trust it either. Which is a whole other thing I have to work on also, because I still, to this day, I know it's better. I feel it's better. It's no pain, but it's still mentally,
like we're both holding our breath.
But 3 years later though, you still are mentally like it's like it is. I don't trust it yet.
So in January this year.
So, well, you can go back to between 22 when I got out of recovery and all of 20. Well, I got out of recovery in October 21, 22, whatever it was. For that whole year and a half, though, we tried everything from epidurals. I think you said muscle stripping. I had more steroid shots than you could ever put into a person's body. I think.
So many doctors.
I tried every doctor I think that was around that would even
second opinion, third opinion.
Yeah, would even talk to us. Finally, we went to
the Mayo Clinic. So we went to the Mayo Clinic in January of this year.
Yep, we did.
And
which I actually had an appointment. Oh,
no, go ahead.
I had an appointment. I had an adjustment on my back in January. Remember?
2023.
2023.
And our friend Justin, who's in the mastermind with me, he did like what did
like a stretch maneuver manipulation.
It was kind of like chiropractic mixed with massage. And you had
jiu-jitsu.
so much pain relief for like 3 months.
Yeah.
And then one day we were walking at our house in Arizona and you just slipped the tiniest. And it was almost like, I don't know, it was like something transpired and we were just back to square one. And it wasn't like there was a fall. It wasn't anything major. It was just like one wrong move.
Like
and
a twist.
There was pain again.
Yeah, whatever it was.
And so we ended up going to Mayo in January of 2024. And they did tons of tests and they couldn't find anything specific, but the doc, you know, there's like a team of doctors. It's a really,
you don't see one doctor. You get blood work at 8, you're in another doctor's appointment by 8:30, by 9:45, you're in this, and then you're doing x-rays and and
so the doctor basically was like, okay, this is the one thing we could do. I think that we could go in and you're going to have to give them the technical term and cut.
It's an iliac psoas tri something, whatever.
It's a tendon.
Yeah. It's
a muscle
so it was a tendon that, I don't know, it was too tight, is what they were saying.
So it's like what lays across the front of his hip. So if you imagine, like if you're watching on YouTube, he has the ball of his hip. This is his hip.
It's where the iliac psoas and something else, the tricant or whatever, lays across the muscle.
So essentially every time he would move it, that thing was stretching and rubbing against bone is one of the things that they said could have been.
Yep.
So we came down and talked about it because they're like, we can do surgery, But we were nervous because number one, we would have been during the surgery in Minneapolis. How do you get back from Minneapolis to Kansas City?
And then 6-week recovery in Minneapolis
or whatever. We had too many kids to be stuck in Minneapolis. So you went back to your original hip doctor here in Kansas City and talked to him. Yep.
And I talked to him and I said, hey, what about this? And so he was like, well, and he has called more of his colleagues around the world than I don't know how many phone calls this guy's made on my behalf. Because I think it was also one of those things too, where he was like, I want to do the surgery because
we got it.
Because I want to make it better because I want to be the guy that fixes it, right?
He'd already done 2 surgeries on you.
So I've already seen him twice. We become friends. Anyways, so he was like, that sounds right. And while I'm in there doing that, I'm going to do a bursa sac clean out or like some scar tissue that I think was in there.
Yeah, he thought there may be some scar tissue bothering you.
So
you went in for surgery.
So February 24. Yep. Right after Valentine's Day.
And I'm
everything is
we have all these holidays.
Father's Day, anniversary.
Only surgeries he's ever had all around. Yeah. So the doctor comes out from that surgery and he's like, I think everything went well. You know, he cut your iliopsoas tendon muscle, I think in 1 or 2 different places.
And he said it'll reattach itself, which is so weird.
And one of the things that like played against my husband in a way is most people, like 98% of all people that have hip replacements, we were told at Mayo, do fine with it.
Yeah.
1%. The other 2% are in like chronic pain for whatever reason. And they're like, unfortunately, you're one of the 2%. One of the things that was kind of playing against you is most people, when they have their hip replaced, they're in their 60s, 70s, 80s. So they're not muscular. They're not like in shape. Everything is kind of atrophied and softened, and which actually makes hip replacements way, way easier. You, on the other hand, are like super muscular, very lean. Your legs are like chiseled.
Oh, here we go. Let's go.
You could go ahead and flex for the people. You have phenomenal legs. Like you can see every muscle in my husband's legs. It's very attractive.
Oh, okay.
And so that actually was like not to your benefit almost, you know what I mean? So he said, we went ahead and cut, and I think they cut in 2 spots, but he said, you had so much scar tissue built up in your hip. He said, I have never seen that amount of scar tissue. And it was like he must have roto-rooted that stuff.
I called BS because I'm sure every doctor's like, this is the worst. You've got the worst.
Like, that is the worst
You've got the worst ear infection. So when we went back a couple weeks later
he said it again.
See, he was like, no, I'm dead serious. So I even asked the doctor who he was working with that day. I'm like, does he tell every patient this? And he's like, actually, he doesn't.
And so they cleaned that out, which was, I think, pretty aggressive. So your hip.
Only thing I can think of what it looked like, had to look like, and I've only seen the videos of it when somebody does like liposuction, where they go in with like a little hose or a scoop thing, and it kind of just would scoop out that scar tissue and suck it out. So that's what he did.
So that was in
February 16th, something like that.
So fast forward about 2 weeks, and you were still in so much pain. And we were like, what have we done? Lord, what have we done?
Yeah,
because
I was mad.
You were mad. I was upset, and I just kept thinking like this, it felt kind of like our Hail Mary pass. It felt like this is the only thing anybody has suggested that could possibly, it makes me want to cry, could possibly be helpful. And now he's in like more pain than almost what beforehand. And it just was like, Lord, you like, where are you in this? Because
and we had a crying fit. I had a crying anger.
Yep, you
like
did.
Mad. It was a Sunday night.
I don't know, but then something shifted.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the shift was, if it was finally the actual surgery pain itself, not the hip pain, but like the surgery pain, you know, from where they went in and stuff. Like, I don't know if that finally got to a place where it calmed down or what, but all of a sudden, you guys, there was just this shift, and your pain has continued to lessen and lessen and lessen
every day.
And at this point, that was how many months ago?
Oh, well, February till
3 months ago. And where would you say you are right now in terms of you are blank percent back to normal?
I would say close to 90% back to normal. As normal as I'm going to get.
Right. They're not sure that you'll ever be able to like jog or run, like run a 5K again. So, you know, in terms of him going back to triathlons, we're just going to have to we're
going to have to play it by ear. And I want to continue to swim and bike like I'm training for triathlon. I just don't know if we better ever run again a 5K.
But we can live with you being out of.
But I can walk. But I can walk a mile without pain.
He can walk,
which is
with me to Florida again.
Which is huge.
You're not in pain when we drive to Iowa. You're sleeping finally.
The only thing that hurts now is my right ear a lot from your yelling at me when I'm driving.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Anywho, it's just to let me drive.
Oh my gosh!
No. So this is like we're ending this story. We're saying that this like chapter of our life is over, aren't we?
I'm pray to the good Lord above. Yes, it is.
We are walking out of it with just a whole new respect for people in chronic pain. Just thanking the Lord that hopefully this season is completely behind us, because it was awful.
It was a lot.
It was awful.
It was a lot, and I know I was not at my best a lot of days. Yeah. And I know that I probably
imagine just being. I mean, it's not like I'm holding it against you. When you're in pain from the second you get up in the morning till the second you go to bed at night, I can only imagine how crappy I would get. So much grace. So anything else you want to add to that story? Or are we just calling that he is healed? Yes and amen. Because we didn't care where the healing came from. Healing can come from the doctors or it can come from heaven. Either way, miracle or medicine, we don't care. We just needed you better, and you are.
I think we needed it better. I think our family needed it better too. Yeah. I think our family was.
It was. They were hard to see dad in pain and not be able to do some of the same things. So I love you.
I love you too.
You did good.
Okay. Well, we did good.
So, do we even talk about my ears? Like,
of course. Why would you not? What do you mean? Who cares?
Well, I do get a lot of messages about ear ringing. Okay, which seems like so like wah, wah, compared to all the things you've been through.
But it's not.
So the same year Jason got into the bicycle accident, December, of that year. So he got into the accident in June.
Yep.
And we ended up purchasing our house in Florida, bougie on the beach. You can find it on Instagram, in July. Why are we laughing? So it's not funny, but essentially we'd already been looking for a house down there. And wouldn't you know it, that a couple properties that were in our budget that looked like something we could do came up for sale when you're like just a couple weeks out after surgery.
I was in a hospital bed.
So I'm like, honey, I know that that's not really what happened.
It might not be great timing, but can I go to Florida and look at the house?
That's not what happened. You were over a month out from surgery.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But there's some people that have been like, was he still hopped up on, painkillers? Because you were like, whatever you want to do, babe. And I'm like, well, do you think we should? And you're like, put an offer in on it. And I'm like, is this you talking or the painkillers? But anyway, we did purchase a condo on the ocean on 30A in Florida that we had every intention of using just for our second home.
Yep.
Then all of my followers on Facebook and Instagram kept saying, are you going to rent this out? Are you going to rent this out? And so I was like, I don't know. Do we rent it out? We never thought about renting it out. What do we hate about renting it out? Kind of would be nice though, when we're only there like once every other month, which is kind of the cadence that we have right now.
Yeah.
To let other people stay and,
but when do you want to be there?
Well, I would prefer to be there full time, but that's just me. Well, we still have kids at home. We can't do that. So what needed to happen is I just needed to fly down once we purchased the home. Yep. We put the offer in on it with sight unseen. We hadn't even been to this particular town, Seacrest on 30A. Just going on a hunch, just a gut feeling from the Lord.
It was you and Ava, right?
Yep. And so I took Ava with me because you couldn't fly.
Yep.
We were just gone overnight when we did the inspection. We closed on the house the day after my 50th birthday, which there's something to be said for that. You'll have to go back and listen to the podcast I did with Ruth Fernandez, where we talk about it was my year of Jubilee.
Yeah.
And that there's something really prophetic about us closing on that house the day after my 50th birthday. So anyhow, in December, I was flying down there because we were under a total remodel and I had a sinus infection.
Yep.
I had been on like an antibiotic, for 10 days in Kansas City. And I'm susceptible to sinus infections. I used to get them more often when I was training for triathlons because I did lake swims every season in June. And there's a lot of bacteria and just
fungus and junk and fish and goose
in lakes. It was finally a doctor at like the Walgreens. What do you call that? Like
the first Minute Clinic.
The Minute Clinic.
Yeah.
She was a triathlete and she's like, do you by chance swim in the lake for your trainings? I'm like, I do. Because I was like, I got to get back to feeling better because, this was years ago. But anyway, she was the one that kind of put that together for me, but I still am susceptible to sinus infection. So I get a sinus infection. I've been on the antibiotics. It was like 10 days later, I'm flying to Florida and just the pressure of the plane when we were landing, my ear was popping and I'm like popping hard. And I was like, holy crap, did I just is that what they would consider like rupturing an eardrum like that? I'm like, oh my gosh, that was awful. Okay. So my ears then almost felt full. Okay. So it was almost like somebody, like when you would be talking
they can't see you on the
yeah. Well, if they're watching me on YouTube, they can. It's like having earmuffs on sometimes. And it would be one ear, sometimes both ears. And it was the weirdest thing because it was like, they just kept getting clogged. And I'm like, what is happening? But it wasn't all the time. Then 3 months after the clogging started, my left ear began to ring. And I was sitting down one morning. I don't know if you remember this, and I was putting on makeup and I'm like, what is that noise? I'm like that high pitched squeal. And then I'm like, it's actually, I think that's my ear ringing. And then I was like, well, that's freaking annoying. That needs to quit soon. Okay. So that was 3 years ago. And unfortunately it has not stopped. So, I went to an ENT. That was the first place I went. If you have ear ringing, which it is, I don't remember the number. I saw like 70 million or something Americans have ear ringing. It's insane, you guys. Look it up. My hearing is fine. Okay. Sometimes people have ear ringing that starts like after they go to a concert or if they work at a job where there's like loud machines or something. None of that was the case. They checked my eardrums to see, did I have a ruptured eardrum? No. Okay. Everybody was like, did you have wax ears? They checked for wax buildup. Nothing. I didn't have, moisture or anything in the ear, nothing that they could see. So what everybody wants to say is, oh, it's menopause.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
I am so tired of menopause being the answer when they can't figure out something else medically.
Yeah.
I mean, grace to those of you in the medical profession, but it's frustrating when everything's blamed on menopause. And oh, by the way, I hit menopause
at
7
45.
years ago. Yes. I mean, I'm 52. I thought I was pregnant when I was 45.
Yeah.
All right. You can stand up and walk, honey. You're making them crawl. They think you're a burglar. So anyhow, she's trying not to be seen. You can wave to everybody. You want to come say hi? They haven't seen you on the podcast in a minute. So we tried a regular ENT. Everything was fine. All right. Tell everybody that's on the podcast hello.
Hello.
Hi, baby. Who's out of school tomorrow? What?
Me.
Last day?
Cheek? Love you.
You're
I'm
going to
not out of school tomorrow.
you're going to
Tomorrow's your
fifth-
half day.
tomorrow's a half day.
Did you swipe off my lipstick?
Yes, you did.
Girl, I'm gonna give you some more. All right, mom and dad will be done soon. So, went to the ENT, that didn't work. Went to a chiropractor. Remember when Dr. Hutch
popped your ear?
popped my ears? That didn't work.
He stuck his finger in your.
I know he put on one of those blue gloves and he
Yeah.
like massaged. I wanted to come up out of my chair. Well, because then I also got TMJ and I'm like, what is happening from like here to here on my body? I don't know. I started doing like weekly lymphatic massage, which removes toxins from your body. I tried essential oils. I tried every like snake oil that
I bought
anybody would
eardrops
send
off
my
the
way.
interweb.
How much money have we spent on freaking eardrops?
A lot.
I mean,
A lot.
I've tried things like just grounding, like walking outside and barefoot in the grass. I've tried. Nothing has helped. I know that I did not have the COVID vaccine because several people have said it's probably the vaccine. I didn't get the vaccine.
Nope,
We are
right.
not vaccinated.
Not vaccinated.
I also don't think that it was long COVID because we had COVID in May of that year and I did not start having ear issues until December. Okay.
Most people that have COVID, their issues come up either right during or right there afterwards.
Yes. So we have not figured out anything that helps. There's sometimes at night, if it intensifies during the day, that it's not very often, but sometimes I just have to go to bed.
It's go to bed.
Because it's like, I can't hear. I can't have dead silence most of the time. I need for you to have like just the television or something on the background just to muffle it a little bit.
So if she's reading at night, we'll just have the TV on just for some background noise. When we sleep at night now, we haven't done this for years, but we do a fan at night
that stands on the floor because it's a little bit louder than our ceiling fan.
The ceiling fan's quiet.
That tends to help a little bit.
Helps a little
because
bit.
I was like waking up in the night and sometimes my ear ringing would be so loud. Like I would tell you, it's just
it would
like
wake you
screaming.
Up. Yeah.
And it's a miserable feeling. And so the only other thing that has really helped is going to the beach. And I know you're going to laugh at that, but the sound of the ocean just drowns it. Yeah. And so, it's like, you can't hear it over the waves and that is magical. Okay. So I don't know what triggers it, why some days it's worse than others. I wish that I did. I also don't know what to do to help it. I tried more of a diet that was all meat because there's this guy on Instagram who's got, tons and tons and tons of followers and he sells a class on tinnitus and ear ringing or tinnitus, whatever you want to call it. And, that is like high in meat, low in oxalates, like things like spinach, like they say, don't do those. Basically every doctor you see just says you need to habituate, which means you just need to grow accustomed to the sound of your head squealing, and which is not okay with me, by the way. And so, here's
how do you get used to that?
I don't know. And so right now I'm just praying. I think actually gotten better at habituating because I notice it less, but it still rings every day. And it's not like it pauses through the day. Like remember a couple times.
But it does change tones.
I have said to you though, oh my gosh, it just stopped. And there's been a couple times it stopped for like 10 seconds or 30 seconds. And it's like, holy crap. Like I almost don't know what to do with the sound of silence.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so great. And then it'll come back. But, and anyway, I think I said 75 million people in America have ear ringing. It's 25 million, but
that's still a lot of people.
Yes. Okay. So,
but what's weird about it is there's no like cure for it. There's not because they just don't.
Because they don't know what's causing it. So I don't think it's menopause, but I'm going to share with them. I'm going to tell you what I think it could be. Okay. I think it could be a couple of different things.
This is Jen's scientific investigation.
This is me being a spy. Did you guys know that if I was not a business coach, I would want to be a spy? I think I could be a spy because I think I have a very trusting face. And even though I'm not very good at paying attention to detail, I do like the hunt, like figuring stuff out.
Yeah. Hey, Jim, what kind of car do you have?
I have a blue.
Okay.
One moment, please. It's not a Suburban. My old vehicle was a Suburban.
So there's your spy.
It starts with the letter T.
There is your spy.
What is it?
There.
What is it? A T? Start with a T?
Okay, go ahead. Keep on thinking about it. So my spy wife,
I've
honey,
for like 4 years.
what is the color of Easton's car?
Black.
Okay. What kind of car does Noah drive?
A Ford.
A Ford what?
Taurus. Taurus?
No.
Okay. What is it? What do I
It's
drive?
a Ford Fusion. You drive a Lincoln Navigator.
Oh yeah, Lincoln Navigator. There's no T in that.
Oh yeah.
Except in Navigator.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're actually spy
Yeah, I know my spidey
ability.
senses are not good.
No,
But
your spy senses are good, but
I
your
love
spy.
war movies and I love like Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Like that would be
But that
me. I
doesn't
just want to be able to like pull a pistol
That'll
out
make you a spy.
and I want to be able to like juggle a knife and like throw it at something. I don't know. That's like spy stuff. That's
Okay.
also assassinator stuff. Okay, here's what I think it is.
Okay.
One of these couple of things. Okay. I think that if
You're
you
so
and
cute.
I have earring,
It's just funny.
thank you.
You're a spy.
I am a spy. I think that it's due to inflammation inside of the body, inside of the ear. I think that it could be something just with my sinuses in general, but I don't know how one fixes that unless you go to a sinus doctor. There's only a couple of sinus doctors in Kansas City. I have called both of them. One of them was so awful on the phone that I literally like hung up on them, which is not like my mojo, but I was like, yeah, no, if this is how rude they are just trying to make an appointment, then forget it. I have no business going to their office. So it could be something like sinuses, you know, there's things like mold in your sinuses and stuff that can happen. We've had our house tested for mold.
Yeah, oh yeah.
That came up
Yeah.
in the normal range. This is going to gross a whole bunch of you out. It could be parasites. There are some people that think, because I also have TMJ. So there's a relation there between ear ringing and the TMJ is on this side. Don't Google this. Okay. So don't Google. But there are videos out there of people having parasites in their TMJ, which whatever joint. And they'll open up somebody's like jaw to do a surgery or something. And there's like parasites all over there. Ew. But
I've said for a long time, you got a yuck mouth.
Stop.
That's just from your cavities.
Stop. Anyway, he does call me yuck mouth because I have a lot of cavities. I don't have a lot of cavities anymore because they're all filled.
But yeah, you don't sip soda anymore like you used to.
Anywho,
Okay.
I have a fabulous mouth. Parasites. So it could be that. Did you guys know that parasites like lay their eggs and larvae and they hatch and stuff like according to the moon? Not like woo-woo stuff, but like literally, I think it's when there's a full moon, parasites hatch, that can make stuff happen. I don't know. I don't want to go any further down that research because I just get the heebie-jeebies and just want to throw up. Okay. So I could have parasites. If you have ear ringing, you could have parasites. And then the two like conspiracy theories is it could be cloud seeding. If you're like, what do you mean by cloud seeding, Jen? Okay, so you know how when I show you guys videos on Instagram of planes with like the straight lines, the clouds in the sky that are the straight lines from the planes. That is weather modification a lot of times.
And then a couple days later,
look it up.
Yeah.
It is not a conspiracy theory. The government started weather modification like I think it was back in the 70s. Don't quote me on that. A couple of years ago, they had problems in California because they were doing weather modification and they got snow then in like the spring.
Do some research.
In Dubai, they just had a total flood because they were doing weather modification. They had a drought. So they were basically putting things into the air to make it rain is what our government does on occasion, thinking that it's helpful. Well, anytime you're going to mess with things that God put in place and in order, I just think we're playing with fire or playing with
there's always there's like a says, don't mess with Mother Nature. She's like
hell hath no fury. I don't know.
Yeah.
But the stuff that they do put into the air, and I would have to look it up to make it rain. It's like, oh, I would have to Google it. Do you want me to Google it? It's like, because I don't want to tell you wrong. It's like barium and something else. Okay, so it could be that, all right? It could be weather modification, the thing that is in the air. I also have a thought that it could be EMF. We live, let me type this out. What is in cloud seeding? Let's see. We live relatively close to, okay, they put silver iodide, potassium iodide, and dry ice. So it's the silver iodide or whatever that is in the stuff that they're dumping in the air. If you look up cloud seeding, you guys, this is not a conspiracy theory. They are literally trying to make it rain. If you want to know why I think we have so much turbulence on airplanes anymore, it's because of things like cloud seeding. They're putting things into the air that is changing. It's changing the air. The other day, you were reading to me an article about a plane that dropped 6,000 feet
in 5 minutes.
In 5 minutes, and because they hit like a dead pocket of air or something.
It was called clear air turbulence.
I'm like, oh my gosh, clear air turbulence. I'm like, they've got to quit messing with the sky. So one of the things is what's happening.
Oh, just there's a car there. So
okay. Are you being robbed?
I don't think so.
Okay. Good job, dogs, if we are. But so it could be the cloud seeding. The last thing though was EMF. So I sometimes wonder, we are close to a tower. There is so much stuff going on because of all the microwave, the phones, the iPads. There's so much like activity in the air that I'm wondering if it's messing with our ears, friends. And it could be a combination of any of those friends. I mean, or any of those things. I might have bugs, and it might be menopause, and it could be because they're putting stuff in the air, and it could be because we live close to a tower and I need to turn off all of our gadgets tonight. I don't know. So
I know it's not very fun for you.
It is not very fun for me. If this is the worst thing I ever have to deal with, though, it is dealable. It's super annoying. I don't feel like this is God's best for me or anyone else. So I'm just going to continue to pray that he takes it away.
What helps? I massage her neck sometimes.
Yep, you do. Sometimes you press really hard.
Like literally like almost like a headlock.
Yeah, I think one time you scared yourself here because I'm like, just keep pressing on it. It was like the pressure from you pressing on my head would almost like drown it out.
Yeah. And it was like a full on like a vice, like you'd iron claw on your ear. So it was I was a little scared about it.
So that's my update on earringing. And that's probably not giving anybody a whole lot of hope because what people will message me is they'll say, hey, Jen, my sister or my husband or my so-and-so, their ears started ringing. I just wondered what helped you. And I'm like, unfortunately, nothing has yet. But yet is the word. And
I get relief after 3 years. Yeah. And we're praying that you can get relief
anytime. Faster. That would be great.
So, any day now.
Oh my gosh. Okay. That was a lot of words. I feel like that was really long and a lot of words.
Was it long?
It was kind of long.
Okay.
Considering most of my podcasts are short, but I hope that this was helpful for somebody, and just be encouraged. If you're someone who's in chronic pain, let Jason's story really encourage you because, praise God, we are out of that season.
I would say if chronic pain is, do not give up and keep we called every doctor. I think that would
we were starting to feel a little bit hopeless. Yeah, it was a dark time there for a minute. And but just we didn't give up total hope, but we were starting to feel like this is it for us. But then I just kept repeating what Tara Wall had told me, like pain is not your husband's portion.
Nope.
Pain is not your husband's portion, and this is not God's best for him. And so we just continued to believe for a miracle, which I'm going to believe that we got through surgery.
You got it.
Believing also that my ears will heal eventually. If you're somebody that's struggling with ringing ears, if you're watching on YouTube, would you let me know in the comments? Or if you're listening to this and you know somebody that has a problem with their ears, send this to them, and maybe just will give them some things to think about and consider trying, because who knows, they maybe haven't tried acupuncture and maybe that's something that would work for them.
Yeah, something might work for them that didn't work for you yet.
Exactly. So thank you, baby, for being here. We're on an Allwood marathon.
Oh, they don't want that.
I loved having you here.
You did?
It was fun. Yeah. Sorry I made you cry.
That's all right.
I feel like a jerk.
No, it's not a jerk. It's just I can tell the story probably better one-on-one, but when I look at my wife and tell a story, or we are sitting this close to each other, well, because I also know the effects of what it caused. Like I know what happened. That's easy what happened, but the after effect is what hurts.
We're all right.
Yeah.
We're good.
It was kind of rocky there for a minute, wasn't it?
I love you. All right, friends. Thanks for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.